Hey, hey, hey. Hi, hi, hi. How is everybody doing? I thought I was online for 10 minutes already, but apparently I didn't press the actual go live button. And apart from that button not being like lit, it doesn't actually show that I'm not streaming. On my end, everything seemed like I was already streaming for 10 minutes, but I guess not. So I was seeing the chat, I was interacting with you guys, but apparently I was talking to myself here. So hey, Nistada, apologies for that, for keeping you waiting. I was already pulling out the cables from the patch I prepared as an intro. Sorry for that. Well, yeah, you don't have to apologize. It's my honest mistake. Luckily, Hoofjaw said in the chat, might one of us be Brice getting ready, I wonder, and that like rang a bell that, hey, are these guys not seeing and hearing me? So hey, we got here in the end, so you can't hear the patch I created. Well, you can still hear my hi-hats. I'm pretty proud of the hi-hats that I created in preparation of the stream. So today we're going to make some drums. I want to start off in a minute or so. Well, when I'm finished pulling out all these cables. I want to start off by synthesizing a kick drum, because that's the easiest thing in my opinion. I also want to have a look at synthesizing hi-hats. And then we'll have a look at well, I really want to show you how you can synthesize clap sound. It's a bit stupid that I already pulled out the cables for that part of this patch, because I had a really nice sounding synthesized clap sound here. But well, there's nothing I can do about that anymore. And I will also have a try at creating a snare drum. Some of these techniques will be based on just my experience with synthesizing quick percussion and drum sounds. Others will be based on classic Roland TR drum machines. I had tried recreating like a TR-808 snare drum, which again, unfortunately, I already pulled the cables out, so I can't let you hear it. But I don't think it sounded like an 808 at all, but it did sound good. And it was kind of sounding like a snare drum. Wait, Nistada is talking in the chat. Nistada asks, you're not having the Leibniz system in your rack anymore. Well, it's in my drawer. I know a lot of people used to look at me as being the Leibniz guy, but honestly, I never really enjoyed working with that system. I just made the videos for it. It was a nice challenge because when I had contacted Chaos Devices a few years ago, one of the people there was like, yeah, okay, we can send you something. And there's several things we can do, several routes we can take. How do you see it? And I told them that I was up for the challenge of making videos about the Leibniz system to explain it in a way that everyone was able to understand them. But at the time I hadn't worked with the system, and just from reading about it, it's still very cryptic. It was very cryptic. So I had no idea what I was getting into. But I was up for the challenge, like I said. And they agreed, so they started sending me all they got from for Leibniz. But apart from feeling excited about the challenge, I never really enjoyed working with it, because a lot of the connections are in the back, and I really like being able to switch out connections on the fly and having access to everyone, because that's, for me at least, is the magic about modular. Having access to like every part of your engine, and as soon as makers start hiding that behind screens or menus, I don't like it anymore. Listadas, all in all, it's really pricey when you only want to try out the Leibniz system. Well, that's true for most modules, I guess, but the Leibniz system is really out there, really weird, and it can be challenging to figure out how to incorporate those modules in your workflow. Nistada says, I got lazy to focus on it further. I kind of got a little bit tired of, in terms of making the videos about the Leibniz system, it started becoming more and more complicated, because with added modules, there also became, how can I say this? You can chain the modules up in different ways, and the more modules there are, the more different ways there are to chain them up, and there's no really one way for me to demonstrate all those possibilities, and I wasn't prepared to make videos about every possible configuration, because that's like an exponentially increasingly difficult task. Anyway, I'm blabbing away here. Let's make some kick drum. My favorite module to use when I start synthesizing a kick drum is my MA35 low pass filter here. It has a built-in VCA, and so that comes in handy. You don't have to use that filter, of course, but I like to do it with a filter instead of with a VCO, which you could use just as well. But in my opinion, the best way to start out is just patching an output of a filter to your mixer or sound card or whatnot. Turning up the resonance so it starts self-oscillating, and then tune it down really, really low. What you then want to do is patch up some kind of trigger to an envelope. Let's just use an output of Pamela's new workout here as a trigger. Of course, this cable is too short. Let's go here. And then you take the output of your envelope and you patch it to first of all to the CV input of your filter. And we should already be hearing something. There's this click at the start of the sound. That's probably because the envelope that I'm using here is very short. So the attack is also very, very quick. This gives a little click. Let's increase the attack ever so slightly. It's really weird that we're getting this click, but I'm sure we'll get rid of it as soon as we patch up a VCA as well. Let me have a sip of water here first. So this is just an envelope routed to the frequency modulation input of a filter. If you don't have a filter with a built-in VCA, you need to patch up the output of your filter to a VCA. And then you can be really lazy and just use the same envelope to control the volume of your sound. And let me do just that, but since there's a built-in VCA here on my filter module, I just need to connect one stackable. Now, it's a little bit annoying that we're getting this click. I might just have to use a different envelope generator. Let's use Contour 1 instead. I don't know, my Delta V here, this one, is giving me a little bit of trouble the last few days. I don't know really why that is. So again, the envelope output goes into the filter modulation input and into the CV input for the VCA. And then if you start playing around with the tuning of your filter, you can hear that we have a really basic kick drum going. So for anyone joining later, today we're going to explore a few ways to synthesize drums. The stream started a little bit later than I had planned because I, well, frankly, just forgot to press the button to go live. Oh yeah. We live and we learn. So how is everybody doing? Let me know in the chat if you can hear everything all right. So we started off making a kick drum by using a self-oscillating filter, by patching an envelope to the filter frequency and then sending the output through a VCA. In my case, I'm using a low-pass filter with a built-in VCA. If you don't have one of those, you just need to use a separate VCA. It can be smart to use a separate envelope for your VCA as well, so you can have further control over the volume of your sound independently of the pitch sweep. But this is my quick and dirty way of making a kick drum. Let me pull this back out. Let's figure out another way. I'm going to at least try for everything to show you a few ways. Hoofdjaw is back again, or still here. So, hi, Hoofdjaw. Hi, Hoofdjaw says, hi, Brice, I can hear all right. It was your remark, Hoofdjaw, like a while back. You said, might one of us be Brice getting ready? I wonder. At that point, I thought I had been streaming for 10 minutes already. On my end, everything seemed to be live. I have my usual windows here. The YouTube live window and my OBS window. Everything seemed to be going, and I could read your comments. So I was really under the impression I was live already, but I forgot to press one button or to click one button on my screen here. So, well, noob mistake. Another way to make a kick drum is once again using a filter. Let's now use filter 8. And you should just ping your filter. Filter 8 has a dedicated ping input, but let's not use it because maybe you don't have a filter with a dedicated ping input. You can just as well use a regular input. Pinging in filter means that you turn up the resonance. Let's remove the trigger for now. You have to first turn up the resonance until it barely self-oscillates. It's best to tune it down. For a kick drum at least, you can make regular percussion like woodblocks and stuff using these techniques, but then you should pitch it higher. But since we're going for a kick drum, let's tune it low, low, low. And then you should turn down the resonance so it just stops self-oscillating. And usually when you then reconnect a trigger, it kickstarts the oscillations briefly, and this is what we call pinging a filter. This gives you a very round filter. Hoofjaw says, I was sitting there for a little bit with the waiting screen before I thought I'd better try and refresh, so I missed a bit, I guess, after you actually went live. Yes, we live and learn. Yeah, well, that's another mistake I won't be making again. And at some point you have figured everything out and you can call yourself a professional. But not really. I don't ever feel like a professional in any field, really. The more I learn, the more I realize that well, I guess that's also a little bit the imposter syndrome, but I think it's also the cliche, and it's a truth. I think not only a cliche, that the older you get and the more you learn, the more you know that you don't know everything. I mean, when I was 25, I thought I knew everything about every single bit of information. No, what I want to say is all my interests, I always thought I knew everything about them, but, well, actually, we all know shit. Mr. Je moeder op een stokje didn't expect to be having synthesis lessons for breakfast, but here we are. Hi, Mr. Je moeder op een stokje. Judging from your name, I'm guessing you're having a very late breakfast there in, I'm guessing, the Netherlands. Let me know if I'm right. So let's do this exact same thing with another filter, because you might think, hey Simon, you're using filter 8, that's like a big boy filter. Well, let's use Root Locus by Nekia Circuits. Let's use the bandpass output because that's okay as well. You can even use the high pass output. This filter doesn't self-oscillate, but that's part of the design. And this one also has a ping input, so let's actually use it for now. And I really, really like how this filter sounds when it's getting pinged. But let's tune it down. And as you can hear, the tail is very long. To bring that down, you should just turn down the resonance a little bit. So that's another way to create a kick drum. And even, well, let me quickly show you how you can do it with a VCO. Let's use cycle 5 here. Let me see if I can zoom in for a moment. Now the downside of a VCO is that it's always going, but well, a filter without a VCA in it as well. Let's tune this down. Let's listen to the triangle output for now. So this is a really low tuned triangle wave. Let's trigger contour 1. Let's use that as an envelope generator. You can use any function or envelope generator you want, as long as it has a snappy decay envelope, it should work. Let's patch the output of the envelope generator to the volt-per-octave input of cycle 5. As you can hear, because this is an unattenuated envelope going to the volt-per-octave input, the range is way too big, so let's attenuate it with select 2 here. We Again, you can use any attenuator module you like. You just need to bring down the level a bit. So let's bring it down. This acts like the FM knob on your on most VCOs. You have an attenuator or attenuverter for your FM. And since we don't have a built-in VCA here, I need to use an outboard one. No, not an outboard one, an external one. Let's use Mix 3. That's this module. Again, you can use basically any VCA you want. So but let's patch the output of the VCO into the input of the VCA. And let's mult our envelope signal. I'm just going to do it with a stackable. And let's send that to the CV input. Now, as you can hear, with our very short envelope, the volume of our sound is also dropping down to 0 really, really quickly. And in this example, I don't really like it. So what we should do instead is not use the same envelope, actually use another one. For this, I'm going to mult. Let me zoom out again here. So for this, I'm just going to mult my trigger signal to another envelope generator. Of course, this cable is too short. Let's go here instead. So I'm just multing this signal to another envelope generator on top of my rack here. It's in delta V. It doesn't really matter. Let's take the output of that separate envelope generator and use that as a CV signal for our VCA here. And now I can increase the decay on that separate envelope. And this gives us a nicer sounding kick drum. The benefit of using an oscillator is that you have different wave shape outputs. So this is the triangle wave. Let's listen to the sine wave. That's a lot cleaner, as you can hear. Let's listen to the saw wave. This might not sound good. I mean, it's not sounding like a kick drum really. Maybe the pulse wave. The pulse wave could work for some kind of hardstyle kick drum, maybe. But I think the triangle is like a nice in-between sound. And I mean in-between clean and distorted. So you can play around with the envelope that controls the filter sweep, or no, it's not a filter. That controls the pitch, the frequency sheep. I'm stumbling here. You can control the envelope that controls the filter sweep. That's what I wanted to say. I rather like how that is sounding. Are there any questions about all of this? Because I will move on to like a hi-hat. Hi-hats are exciting to me. Mr. Je moeder op een stokje says pitch frequency sheep. Yeah. Pitch frequency sheep will make a fine name for my next project. Thanks. Maybe that's another slogan for a t-shirt. I know we already stumbled upon noise yes, which would be awesome for a t-shirt. There was someone who mentioned something else that was awesome for a t-shirt. Welcome to Dimension Brutal, something like that. Welcome to the dimension of brutal. I think it was that. But pitch frequency sheep would be nice as well, and I could have a sheep on my t-shirt instead of a little piggy. Is there a sheep here? No, it's a chicken, a cow, and a pig. Oh well. Okay, let's move on to hi-hats. To create a hi-hat, I'm going to base my patch here on the TR-808. In the TR-808, 6 pulse waves are getting mixed together to create a metallic sound. I tried it with 3 and it was working nicely. So let's demonstrate with 3 again. I'm just going to use square outputs of 3 body here, but you can use any VCO you like. I want to send all my outputs into some kind of utility mixer. So I'm just patching up the pulse waves here to my mix mode by SSF. This module can act as an attenuator or as a mixer. Then you should send the mixed output of those waves through to a bandpass filter. Well, maybe let's first monitor this without going to the filter, so you kind of have an idea of what to go for. I hope this isn't going to be too loud. Let's turn down the kick drum. I hope this isn't too annoying, but well, there's not a lot that I can do about that. So this is just 3 pulse waves pitched up really high, mixed together. You can hear when I start playing around with frequencies of the pulse waves that really, this is just, I mean, you could make a chord out of these 3 pulse waves. But the point is actually to create a high-pitched, really dissonant sound. Please avoid to have any musicality or intervals between them. So let's remove this because that's really sharp. Let's send this into a bandpass filter. Let's monitor the output of the bandpass filter. And this is with the resonance turned down really low. but you could turn it up a bit. I think you can hear how this sounds a little bit metallic. I mean, if you don't like how it sounds, you can play around with the frequencies of your VCOs. Something like that. And you should send this sound through a VCA with a short envelope. So let's use the VCA on the bottom here of my case. This is the mix by Make Noise. Someone in chat a few days ago told me that Make Noise made a new version of Mats, which is kind of surprising to me. But well, they did. I wonder if they'll be able to match their success of the first Mats module. I guess they tried to recreate that success in a way which is understandable for a commercial organization. So this is our metallic sound going through a VCA without any envelope shaping the volume yet. So let's patch up an output of an envelope, and then we can trigger that with, let's just use our clock for now. And of course you should make that a really short envelope. Let's play around with the tuning of our filter. Mr. Je moeder op een stokje says nice kitchen, by the way. I'm not sure what you mean. But thanks anyway. And if we play around with the decay of our envelope, we get closed and open hi-hats. Now what I like to do, or at least what I figured out while preparing for this stream, is I actually like it when there's some white noise added to the patch. So what I'm going to do is just mix it in at the filter stage here. My filter has more than one audio input, so I can do that. If you don't have a filter with separate audio inputs, you can just mix your noise in with a utility mixer and then send the mix of the metallic sound and the noise into your filter. But I like the white noise in there. I mean, this is without and this is with the added noise. Mr. Je moeder op een stokje says, laughing my ass off. I just took a look at the tonic tensor tympani syndrome video. Shit sounds terrifying. It's a good reminder to get me a proper set of earplugs. Oh, yeah. Yeah, of course. That video is filmed in my kitchen. Wait a minute. Let me turn on my studio light here. So you can actually see my my face. It's not the most important thing about this stream, but maybe it's nice that you can actually see me. Yeah, you should get proper earplugs. It's really important. I only like when I was 18, I started playing with a band as a bass player, and it was a really shitty band who like rehearsed in a really shitty room with tiles all around, so the reverberations were terrible, and it was only 2 times that I forgot my earplugs, and just those 2 rehearsals really damaged my hearing. Nistada says, that sounds really nice. Sadly, I missed this part, but will rewatch as always. Well, a quick recap for you, Nistada. What I did was mix 3 pulse waves from 3 body here. Just mix them in a utility mixer, send the output of that utility mixer to a bandpass filter. Mix in some white noise, send the bandpass output into a VCA with a really short envelope. And that's the entirety of this patch. When we bring back the kick drum, now what we can of course do is modulate the decay parameter of our envelope. I'm just going to use a stepped sample and hold from Pamela's new workout. And then we get some variation, almost like open and closed hi-hats. I'm just thinking here in silence about how I can create a choke group, but I just realized that the way I wanted to try it won't work, so maybe I have to think about that a little bit more, and I'm not going to try and patch that up right now because, well, it's not going to work like I imagined anyway. Let's send the clock into Zularic Repetitor here. I like to use that module in its probability gate mode. And let's use that as a trigger. Really like how that is sounding. And of course, another really simple way to just synthesize a hi-hat is just by using the noise through a bandpass filter. I mean, this works as well. If you increase the resonance, it might even work better. But with the metallic sound of the pulse waves, it sounds like this. Hoofdjaw says something interesting here. You can ring modulate square waves, a sort of XOR type of ring mod thing, to make a metallic noise as well. I think you'd ring mod one square with another, then send the result to another and ring mod that with another square. I actually thought that that was how the 808 hi-hat was made, but I looked it up and apparently it's just a mix of pulse waves. But well, since we're here anyway, let's try it out, shall we? Now, what can I do? What can I use here to ring modulate my stuff together? Let's use Collide 4 as a ring modulator. So one pulse goes into X in, the other goes into the I in. Let's remove the noise from our filter for now. And let's monitor the output of the ring modulator here on Collide 4. Through our filter. So these are two, I'm not really XORing them, but I'm just using a regular ring modulator. Hoofdjaw says, in a way it would be more chaotic, if that's the right word. Yeah, I would suspect it to be a little bit more like less VCO-y. I think even with 2 it already sounds interesting. Let's play around with the relative tuning. I think that's interesting. And now let's use that signal to ring modulate another square wave width. This is starting to get a little bit confusing here. So there's the last square wave here from 3 body is now getting ring modulated with the sound that we just made. And then if we monitor that, we indeed get something very metallic as well. The weird thing is, I think we get really well, it's really in the same ballpark as just mixing the 3 square VCOs, but well, it's a little bit less predictable what's going to happen when you start playing around with the relative tunings here. Hoofdjaw says, yeah, it's quite similar, probably more noisy when in the drone. Yes. So like that. Let's mix back in the white noise. Nistada says, which module are you using for the ring modulation? I'm using Collide 4 as I'm using the 2 ring modulators on Collide 4. Mr. Je moeder op een stokje says, see you around. See you around, Mr. Je moeder op een stokje. I hope you join the stream again. I hope you enjoyed your breakfast as well. So that's hi-hats for you. Now I want to tackle the most complex sound, and I hope I have enough envelopes left in my system, so I don't have to pull out the kick drum we made and the hi-hats, because I really like to work with the context. But let's now make a clap sound. And a clap sound has really 2 parts. There's the initial like ratcheted clattering. I don't know how to describe it, but there's the initial the start of the sound, which is like ratcheted triggers or bursts of noise, and then there's the tail. When you combine those, it really tricks the ear to like hear a clap drum, clap sound in that. Now, making ratcheted bursts of noise is not that hard. We just need to like use a really fast LFO as a trigger for an envelope. Let me change up my camera angle a bit here, so I can hopefully show you everything that's going on here. So first of all, I want to send my white noise. Well, maybe I should use the pink noise. I like the pink noise more, actually. At least for snares, and what claps is a bit similar. So let's send the pink noise or the white noise, should you prefer that, into a VCA here. Delta V is a combination module of a VCA and an envelope, well, dual. So that's really easy. Let's monitor its output. And if we start looping the envelope here, we already have something that sounds like the start of a clap. Now, this is not what I want to do. I want to actually send an LFO to trigger that envelope. So let's use an output of dual LFO here. Let's put it in free mode. So this is what happens when you start triggering an envelope generator really quickly. Now I want to be able to control the length of this burst. So what I actually have to do is send this, well, the shape of the envelope that I'm getting. What I actually need to do is send that through a VCA. You could also just look at it as I have to send my trigger, the LFO, through a VCA with a really short envelope time. So let's deal with CV for now. So what I want to do is make a ratchet LFO that is very short. So I'm going to send my LFO output into the VCA of delta V, and then I want to trigger my envelope well, with a trigger, of course. What's happening now is, well, we're not hearing it, but the VCA and envelope are attenuating the LFO, so it's only doing instead of one continuous stream. And then we need to send the result of that, which is CV, to a VCA, to the CV input of a VCA, and then if we send some pink noise through to the signal input of the VCA, things should start to make sense again. Stuff is falling here. Apologies. So you might not hear this. Let's bring down. I'm wondering what I'm doing wrong here, because there is something not quite right here. You should be getting that's what was going wrong. Mistada says, so the noise comes from a looping envelope oscillating. Well, there's really a lot of ways you can go about it. You could use a looping envelope to attenuate your noise, but then you need to control when the loop of the looping of the envelope starts and stops. I find it easier to use an LFO to, like we're hearing now, to gate your audio, your noise, and use an envelope to control how long that will go on. So this is, of course, way too long. Something like this. Now, the reason that I'm using an envelope for this, and I prefer to do it this way, So using an envelope to control the length of our LFO. Because this way we can use the end of cycle of that same envelope to trigger another envelope which will control the volume of our tail. The way we do that is we patch up the end of cycle of your function generator to the trigger input on another envelope. Now on delta V I can just use the right side for this because there's two sides, which is really easy. And now this right side will only get triggered when the first side, which is controlling the stutter, when that is stopped. And when we then take the sum output here of this function generator, we can hear that let's increase the decays here to ridiculous lengths. That's too much. So you can hear first you get the ratcheting, and then we have the tail. Of course, all of this has to be a lot shorter, and I should increase the speed of my LFO as well. Is everybody following this? Because it's a little bit confusing, even for me, and I'm standing here right in front of the rack. So to reiterate, we want two CV signals to control one VCA. The VCA will be handling the audio part of the patch. VCA is the noise is going into the VCA, and we need two separate envelopes, preferably mixed into one CV signal. We need two CV signals to make the clap shape. So first we have a ratcheting thing going on, which is an envelope that attenuates an LFO. And then we have a tail that is triggered by the end of cycle of that first envelope, which is controlling the ratcheting or controlling the level of the LFO. So when that first envelope stops, we stop hearing the ratcheting, and the end of cycle output of that envelope will trigger a second envelope that is used as a tail. Hoofja says, good to hear. The long version though helps make it clearer what is happening. Yeah, so maybe let's listen to it again. Maybe I can zoom in a bit on that particular module, because most of the magic here, let's just go freehand for a moment here. So you can see what's happening there. So the blue part here is the envelope controlling the length of the ratcheting. It's the LFO that's connected to the VCA input here. So the first envelope controls how that LFO is being attenuated. And then the end of cycle here of that first envelope triggers the other one, which triggers the tail of the sound. I hope that makes things a little bit more clear. Claps can be really daunting, but very satisfying once you get them right. Now, instead of this LFO, which has no randomness at all to it, I want to use an output of orbit 3 here. This is just off screen. And if we increase the length here of that ratcheting part, you should be able to hear that this is a little bit chaotic of a signal. Which to me adds to the realism. And then the final thing we need to do is send all of this through a bandpass filter. I think that sounds really cool. And you can make short claps. Or longer ones when you start playing around with the decay of your tail end. You can do this with white noise as well. That sounds a little bit more crisp. Maybe we should use the white noise. Let's use a stackable cable. So I can mult my noise here, because I already used the white noise in my hi-hat patch. Let's bring back up the other sounds. Another thing that you could do that I read about is kind of creating copies of that clap sound with delays, very short ones, which you can then like pan left and right, which also adds to like the space and realism of a patch like this. So let's find two suitable cables and let's see if I can make it happen. So I'm just patching up a delay here. I've also multed my dry signal, so we're still listening to the dry signal here. let's mute the dry signal and listen to like the two outputs of my delay module here, which is a stereo delay, by the way. Let's turn up the wet dry control to completely wet. Let's tap in a really quick tempo, and let's increase the speed here with these knobs. Let's bring back the dry signal. So how's that sounding? I think it sounds really nice. It's a little bit phasey. Let's increase the delay time. Let's bring down the feedback. Keep in mind there is actually now there is no reverb or outboard delay going on at all. I really like this. Nistada says very dynamic, smashing, really punchy. I like all those words. So if there's no questions about that, I'll move on to making a snare drum in a few minutes. But well, even without this delayed stuff, so I muted the delays here. We're just listening to the dry clap. Even this by itself, in my opinion, sounds rather convincing. But well, adding the delayed versions just adds a little bit more space, because that's stereo delay. Nistada says, we'll need to patch it myself to fully understand, I think. Yeah, of course, it's really confusing. But I'm sure if you try it, you'll be able to figure it out. And if not, please just send me a message. I'm always happy to help. Now let's add my go-to snare patch, which is really just as simple as routing pink noise through a ripples bandpass filter, connecting the output through a VCA, well, a VCA with a short envelope. Again, I'm using a Delta V here because it has the combination of a VCA and an envelope, so that's just convenient. I need to create some kind of trigger for this. Let's use an output of Zularic Repetitor, which is still doing probability gates here. I know you can't see it, but it is still there. And then if we monitor the output of the VCA on delta V, we should be able to monitor our snare drum. Snare drum sound. Now, I always turn up the resonance a bit on my ripples. You can use another bandpass filter, but to me, pink noise through a bandpass filter is the best way to quickly synthesize a snare drum. And depending on the settings of your filter, you get a different type of sounds. Nistada says pink noise is the way to go for a snare. Well, it's my personal favorite. There's probably no literature about that backs me up, but if you ask me, pink noise is the way to go for a snare. Pink noise through a bandpass filter. You can start modulating the length of your envelope, just like we did for our hi-hat. Let's rig down the probability a bit. Nistada says really tasty. Well, I think so too. Now I read up about how to synthesize like an 808 snare, and apparently it's noise mixed with two VCOs and some kind of really short bursts at the start, a clicky sound from an envelope maybe. Well, I should be able to try that. Let's bring down the other sounds a bit. I can try and use two triangle wave outputs here from both generate 3s. So one triangle, second triangle. If I mix the noise here on the same utility mixer, I can just send the output of everything into the filter, which should enable us to monitor this really easily. So this is the noise through the bandpass filter, just like we had it a minute ago. And these are two VCOs. You can hear that it's really easy to make a cowbell, so that's a free one there. So just two detuned VCOs through a filter perhaps, and a VCA with a short envelope. But well, when we bring in the noise, we get something like this. And you can imagine when we start playing around with the frequencies of the VCOs, everything starts sounding differently. Let's bring down the noise a little bit, just so we can hear the VCOs a bit better. Well, the body of a snare drum is usually lower than you might expect. So I keep them, the VCOs, tuned a little bit lower as well. And again, try to avoid any nice sounding intervals. Let's bring back up the noise. Let's bring down the decay. I think we should bring down the volume of the VCOs relatively to the noise. And if we bring back up the other sounds, I think this sounds really nice together. How's that sounding, everyone? So for anyone joining this late, I welcome you, but well, you kind of missed the fun. We made a kick drum by pinging a filter, by using a resonating filter, and then by using a VCO with a filter, a frequency sweep. Then we made hi-hats by using ring-modded pulse waves. We also tried it by just mixing pulse waves, sent the outcome of that through a bandpass filter and then through VCA with a short envelope. We made a clap in a very confusing way that actually works by splitting up the signal that controls the volume of our noise into parts. One is a ratcheting part, the first part of the clap sound. The second one is the tail. The ratcheting part of the envelope is created by gating an LFO with a VCA with a short envelope, and then the end of cycle of that envelope is used to trigger another envelope. That's the tail end. It's controlling the volume of the tail end. And then there's the snare, and Hoofdjaw asks, can you do a quick recap of the last snare patch and maybe a quick listen to it on its own too? Ah, yeah, of course. This one is really easy, Hoofdjaw. So we have 3 sounds going through a bandpass filter. One is some pink noise, and then there's 2 VCOs that are tuned, well, to something really dissonant. I mixed them together on a utility mixer together with the noise. I've sent the output of that utility mixer through my bandpass filter. The output of the bandpass filter is going into a VCA. I'm using a very short envelope to gate that VCA, and that's what we are hearing. I'm also modulating the decay parameter a bit. Nistadas is again very inspiring, still trying out the subharmonics from your last live stream. Yeah, that was a fun stream. I won't be able to show how to do the subharmonics with Contour 1. I was planning to, but I used Contour 1 for the patches. But well, I just figured out after I finished that stream that I just forgot to patch the right cable into Contour 1. I did everything right, just one wrong cable, which caused the whole patch to fall apart. Hoofja says, sorry, I sort of zoned out for a bit there. I think that's the nicest comment I can get. Kind of drifting away, listening to my voice here. That's nice. I should start doing ASMR. Am I right? Hoofja says, it's in the Contour 1 manual for those interested. Well, I was sure I was doing everything right, but of course when you patch a cable to the wrong input, things are not going to work. Let's bring back everything. To finish off this patch, let's quickly add some kind of melody to all of this stuff. I'm thinking, which module should I use? Well, maybe I can add just a pinged filter here. Let's use root locus as kind of a woodblock sound. I really like how that module sounds when pinged. Let's see if its inputs are connected. Let's pitch this one up. Let's pan the hi-hat slightly to the left. Let's pan the woodblock slightly to the right. I'm really enjoying how this sounds, everyone. Maybe I should try patching the Benjolin. Yeah, why not? The Benjolin through a pair of low-pass gates here to create some kind of melody. Just trying to do something not too cliche here. To add some melodic content to this patch. Let's route this through through morph 4 so I can add some sidechain compression to that, because, well, my outboard compressor is still broken. I was planning to open it up, but I simply cannot find the right tool. I know I have like a hex screwdriver with like these hex bits on it, but I just can't find it. It's somewhere here, so until I find it I cannot try and fix my compressor, which also means I cannot buy a new one, because, well, if I would be able to fix it, that of course would be a lot better. And let's use 2 spare outputs here of the probability gate to open and close my low pass gates here. And then I have to patch up this one as well. Of course, the cable is too short. So we're listening to audio from the Benjolin. Let's bring down the drums. Let's make the sound a bit more interesting. Something like that might be interesting. I think a little bit of reverb would be nice for this. Maybe let's go for a large plate reverb here. Some delay. I like that. Let's bring back the drums. And then I need to figure out a way to create the side chain. Let's just but I have to offset my thinking how to do it. If I change up this routing here. Yeah, so I can use like the inverted envelope output here of contour 1, which is used as an envelope for my filter, for my frequency sheep. I'm again with the sheep. What I want to say is I'm using contour 1 for my frequency sweep. Frequency sheep. Oh man. So I'm using the inverted output through select 2. And then when I use the output, let's bring that into the window here. When I use the second output here of the second channel, I can add an offset to whatever is happening on the first channel there. And and this should let me use this as a CV for my VCAs here. And I think this is giving me some kind of VCA. Let's do this for a moment. Yes, there is a slight ducking effect going on there. Okay, that was what I was hoping. And well, since I still have cables here, I can just as well add some kind of sequence to this using, who just says for flux for flux sake, they get everywhere those sheep, yeah. The damn frequency sheep, sorry. So, output of step 8 through a quantizer, output of the quantizer into the Benjolin. I know the CV input, well, there's an attenuator next to the CV input, and I know I haven't touched it, and it was calibrated to be exactly volt per octave, so I'm not touching that. Maybe I can do, if I have one more stackable, which I have, I can like create one more type of movement here, which is like transposition for my sequence. Just using Nibbler for that. I'm just using it to create stepped voltages by using it as a counter, and the trigger that's triggering the counting is just the output of my the trigger that I'm also using for my clap. But well, I should really go for the trigger that is also used for my kick drum. Nistada says the lowest position on the step 8 is off. Yeah, when you slide down these sliders, whether you use it to sample a track incoming CV or audio, or you use it as like a sequencer, turning it down attenuates that stage entirely. Maybe I'm thinking adding a bass here. I think I should add a bass. Do I have a VCO that is not being used? As long as I have cables, I can keep going, of course. At some point I will have to stop. Thinking here, what can I use? There's only Odessa there, so maybe I should give it a try. Even a static note would be more interesting than no bass at all. Let's see if I can... This is not going to sound right, but... No, I have to send this through an attenuator, but... Just... none within reach. Okay, let's use this ridiculously long cable then to go here, and let's go back up. What happens when I use this CV out here instead of the attenuated signal from Nibbler? I think this sounds great, actually. What a pleasant surprise. Usually when I start using Odessa, it means I've run out of regular VCOs and I have to resort to it. But it's been a few times already that I, well, just kind of use it reluctantly at that point in the patch, and well, it turns out really great. Am I right? It's not entirely in the same scale as the thing the Benjolin is doing, but oh, it's a little bit kind of a glitchy patch anyway. Maybe let's try. Bear with me for a moment here. Yeah, I really like how Odessa is adding something to this Let's make it more bassy. Is that moment of the stream where I just shut up for a few minutes because I really enjoy what we're listening to here and I want some clean audio to maybe kind of clip for like Instagram, stuff like that. So if there's any questions, please please ask me now, because in a few minutes I will finish the stream. I think in about 5 minutes or so. My legs are tired from standing the whole time. So well, let me just shut up for a minute here. Sounds absolutely great. Yeah, I'm really pleased with what we created here. Nistada says, gotta go. Thank you for streaming and sharing. It was a pleasure. It was a pleasure having you, Nistada. See you next time. And if you get stuck in the synthesizing a clap, you know where to find me. Are there any suggestions maybe for a future stream? It's not like I'm entirely running out of ideas, but well, maybe a little bit. Well, not yet, but at some point I will start having difficulty thinking of interesting subjects to tackle. I've noticed it's more pleasurable for me to kind of zoom out and really build patches instead of really focusing on one module. I think that's more enjoyable, which doesn't mean I won't ever focus on one module or one type of module anymore. Like today was really enjoyable for me. Really like how that woodblock sounds. It's just to the right. So if there's no more questions or suggestions, I think I'll end the stream here. Thank you all for being here. I always very much enjoy interacting with you. It's a pleasure to be showing you live few of the techniques that I sometimes use, and as well as exploring a few new ones, because well, the snare technique is new for me. The suggestion of ring modulating the pulse waves is something that I read about, but I hadn't tried it before, etc. Woodblock says, thank you. I will think of suggestions later. Yeah, we talk later. At random, this was nice. Thanks. At random, you were lurking. That's okay. I'm glad you were here, enjoying the stream. Thank you all for being here. I hope you learned something. That would be nice. See you next time. Thanks for joining me on this awesome journey. Bye.